We're going to look at how to fill out a forcible detainer complaint in Kentucky. The first thing that you need to do is to go to the Court of Justice page. That's courts.ky.gov. They've recently updated the web page, and unfortunately it makes it a little harder to find some of the information that you're looking for. But it'll be in the forms. As you can see, there's nothing up here that says forms, but you look for resources and then you see legal forms. You click on that, and you have to click once again to browse the legal forms to actually get to the page that has these. There will be quite a few on here. They're listed by a sorting system that only makes sense to the clerks. It doesn't mean anything to normal people, so it's hard to find what you're looking for. You can do a Control F and search for something like Forcible if you wanted to do that. But the forms will be on this first page. You have to be careful if you're in Jefferson County or not. For all the rest of Kentucky, you're going to find your forcible detainer complaint down here. It's the AOC Form 216. However, if you live in Jefferson County, you have to go back up here, and they don't call it the forcible detainer the same as they do down here. This is nice and simple: forcible detainer complaint. Up here it says petition for writ of forcible entry detainer. There's a long story behind why Louisville has its own form. It really seems meaningless today, but it still exists. So in Jefferson County, you want to use this form. Anywhere else in the state, use this form. The information that you put on the form is virtually identical. So you click on it. I'm using Chrome. This is a PDF, and it's one that you're able to fill out. In Chrome, you have to tell it to download the original to where it's actually interactive and you can fill it in. Your web browser may vary a little bit. But once you have the form up, you don't worry about the case number. The clerk will assign that. The court, it's almost always going to be district court in Kentucky. It is possible for a circuit court to hear a forcible detainer case, but highly unusual. It's virtually always district court. You have the pull down for your county, so we'll just select the county. You put your name, whatever you like there. This is your address. This is for the purposes of serving you the judgment, any other papers related to the case. If you're a little hesitant about using your home address, if you have a UPS box or a PO box, my experience is this will work too. And this seems rather odd to me, except that there are a few out-of-state landlords. But it should come preset with Kentucky, since most will be in Kentucky. But you have to set it, and then your zip code, whatever that might be. And here's your tenant. Whatever their name is, address. City. Same thing, you have to select. Now this really does mystify me that you have to select Kentucky for the address of the tenant, because the court would not have jurisdiction if it was not a Kentucky address. But go figure. Alright, this is sort of self-explanatory as it goes along. And you can't type like first. As you see, it gives me an error if I type anything other than a number, so it's on the 1 day or 5 day or whatever. And you have a pull down, and the year doesn't matter. And this is just the street address it's almost always going to be the same as this one up here. Theoretically could be different. Located at, that means city, state, and zip. Here it's written or oral. You are in big trouble if you have an oral lease. Please, please, please always have a written lease. So here you put whatever it was that they agreed to pay, $500 a month, whatever it was. And again, I can't say first, I'm only allowed to type 1 day of each month as rent, and they have breached. And this is if they've breached for payment. They can breach for other things too. But we'll say the tenant stopped paying right away and they didn't pay the $500. If they made a partial payment, then it would be whatever they actually owe. It also includes for late fees, so whatever it is that your lease calls for. Of course, normally this is a per diem, so it's going to change each day, but this is what your claim is. In a forcible detainer, the exact amount is really not going to be that critical. You're primarily just going to prove that they haven't paid everything they owe. So the late fees would only come into it if they paid the rent, but they didn't pay all their late fees, and you still want to file the forcible, then you're going to need to document the late fees. Here's where if they say they have a dog and you have a no pets lease, something like that, this item 4 is where you would fill that out. And you can just simply type dog, or you can also be a little more elaborate, something like that. Written notice to vacate on. You have to be very careful here that you are given the right amount of time. If your lease says nothing then about notice periods, then the default in Kentucky is normally 30 days. So if you may have heard about 7-day notices and things in Kentucky, but if your lease doesn't say that you can give 7 days notice, if it doesn't say anything about how many days notice, then you're looking at probably having to give a 30-day notice. You also have to be a little bit careful. Some areas of the state have adopted the Uniform Residential Landlord-Tenant Act, and some have not. Lexington and Louisville have, along with several other, but most of the state has not. As far as money breaches, if they haven't paid their rent, then the minimum notice period remains 7 days. If it's over a non-monetary issue, such as a dog or noisy parties or something like that, in a URLTA area, the notice period, the minimum is 14 days, whereas in non-URLTA areas, it remains 7 days. So you want to be sure, because this is, with a forcible detainer, the notice is about the only normal issue that you're going to run into. Did you give enough notice? So we'll say and you're swearing that you've not that they are still there and they have not left. Don't want a phone number in case of contact. They didn't like that, did they? I guess they want a real number. Alright, that's somebody's number. This is for you to sign. If your property is in an LLC or corporation or some sort of arm's length, you want to make sure that the court in your area will allow you to sign, because when you place your property in an LLC, you are no longer the landlord, and you're not an attorney unless you have a license. So you want to be careful about that. Down here, the district clerk can do this for you, and this is done in person. You hit print, you're ready to go. Now, just to show you, if we go back over here and look at the Jefferson County form, it is very, very similar. Plaintiff, defendant, written or oral lease, monetary amounts, gave notice on, essentially the differences are down in the part where it's the instructions to the sheriff or the constable, and that's what that lawsuit was about in the 80s, was how the sheriffs and constables were posting this notice complaint. Otherwise, everything's the same. You're good to go.